I could have played Superman.
Yeah, I'm surprised you didn't. I mean, look at that.
Me too.
Doughy physique and all.
I wouldn't have had a doughy. I should have cut my original plan was I was going to cut my facial hair into big sideburns for this episode. So like Wolverine. So because obviously Kevin Feige over at Marvel Studios is going to be watching this episode.
Yep.
And I want him to know like I'm ready to play Wolverine and I would be great at it. And there is not a steroid that has been invented that I will not take. I will do whatever you ask me.
That's your plea to Kevin Feige?
Yeah, Feige, I'm ready to juice.
Because they're looking for a new Wolverine, right? Yeah.
Yeah, they're gonna have to do the whole X-Men pretty soon. I'm ready. I'll just give me a role. It doesn't have to be Wolverine. I'll be anybody. I could do Cyclops. I could be Scott Summers. Keith, I need a little support here.
Speaking of our hot viewership,
Yeah.
we have some very loyal fans. So we don't have
You're
any.
doing fine. You start, you do fine, and then you just stop.
I just give up because I'm so bad at this. I just hate myself so much.
Anyways, Rob Freeman, look what you did to him. This is gonna be great. I'm fired up. It's this is a very big polarizing film, Man of Steel, which was it came out in 2013. This is a viewer recommendation by Rob Freeman.
This is for you, Rob. Thank you for the suggestion. We're here for you.
Yeah, thank you, Rob. This was a great idea.
Yes.
This movie has inspired a lot of opinions. We're incredibly late to the party, obviously, but I think we actually probably will bring, hopefully, an interesting, unique perspective to this because I imagine you had never seen this film before. I had never seen this film before. I'm not a huge Superman DC guy, so it's entertaining and interesting. I think it was coming at it from this really like a clean slate. Like my palate is uncorrupted for this stuff. So really, hopefully, an unbiased perspective.
Absolutely. As a shitty host, I didn't do any research. I didn't even post. So I don't know too much about the reception of this film. But I believe it was not received too well.
It was incredibly polarizing. It was like a love or hate, but it is in like the cool internet world.
Yeah.
It seems like it's pretty universally panned.
Really?
And is blamed in hindsight for a lot of the negative reactions that DC films have gotten, and the whole Zack Snyder effect, and et cetera, et cetera.
I find it so fascinating, and I want to do more research on because I am just joining the superhero club. I really liked what Marvel was doing. I enjoyed the connectivity. I enjoyed all that stuff, for probably as everyone does. And knowing that DC struggled, it kind of put me off to it in general. So I was very interested to see the genesis of what they tried. This was the beginning of creating an interconnected universe, correct?
Correct. This was sort of supposed to be their Iron Man.
Their Iron Man. So where do you land? Where do you land with Superman?
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting film because I think it was just really unique, and I'll say that I don't think it's a very good film, but it was entertaining in enough ways that I was just kind of, I don't want to say in shock. That sounds too strong, but I was just like, this is insane. Like there's just so much happening, and it was just so over the top that it almost became fun. Like it's not like that it's so bad it's good kind of thing, but it was just so much that I found like it was enjoyable. Like I enjoyed watching it, even though I think it's a bad film. So it's kind of a weird place to be.
It is a weird place to be. I'll say this: I liked it. Don't get me wrong. I didn't love it. I wasn't like, oh, I'm all in. But I just didn't see. I don't see where people hate it. I don't see where people hate it. I think at worst, there are enjoyable parts. I think at worst, there's like, oh, that's not for me, it's not great, but like, that one thing was pretty cool. I enjoyed that. You know, I think he's a great Superman. That gentleman is very handsome. And I think he's a great Superman. And I think that's where it starts. I think it starts that he's a great Superman. He's got the look, he's got the feel to it. I think everyone's pretty well cast for the most part. There's really unique action in it. And the story is well thought out. I think the story is, let me be clear on what I mean by that. The story has continuity. There is clear continuity through the story. Things make sense, except for one part that I could like nitpick a little bit. But as a whole, I thought, again, not in a revelatory sense. I'm not like going to die on this hill. But I do feel like the story has thought within it, and things add up. Things continue to add up, in my humble opinion. You clearly disagree, so jump in. Tell me why you don't think things add up in this film. What is out of left field in this film?
All of it. I think everything. I think it's like I told you, as I was watching it, I don't think I've ever watched a movie where I so consistently was like, what? Huh? What? Who's he? How's it? Why?
Tell me.
Why?
Give me an example.
When I take notes on films, they usually include like funny lines, things I like, things I'm a little unsure of. Why'd that happen? This is just all questions. And it wasn't intentional. It was just every time I had a thought, it was like, why is this happening?
Yeah.
Why is this happening?
Tell it to me.
Okay.
Tell it to me. I'm curious.
And I should say, like, some of this might be, maybe I missed some things, or maybe some of this is explained if you have any base of knowledge on Superman. Superman is not somebody that I'm especially familiar with.
And I'm not either.
So my first question was, why couldn't, like, most of these are honestly from that first sequence on Krypton. That entire, I think that was unnecessary. We'll come back to that. But why couldn't they all escape? Why didn't they all escape?
He does ask that in a line of dialogue. Like, at least they addressed it. At least they addressed it. So this is my point.
Stupid.
Okay,
It was like because it wasn't the right thing to do. Wasn't that basically the gist of it?
I mean, essentially, how I interpreted it is like, this was our home, this was our planet, we're gonna live and die here. Because he was like a high-ranking like officer. I mean, if you're gonna question that answer.
Zero sense.
But if you're gonna question that answer, then you gotta question, but equally, you're gonna question Zod's connection for keeping his planet going. I mean, and why are you going to all these lengths? Bro, just let it go. Find a new planet. You gotta like go somewhere and live and be happy.
That's what he was doing. He was finding a new planet.
No.
Zod is the least offensive part of this.
No. If you're gonna question the same logic and loyalty you have, then you're gonna say, Zod, you shouldn't be going to conquer another planet. Just go and live. Just go and exist. But it's like they are.
That's not true. This is a weird detail to get hung up on. But Zod's loyalty is to his people. He wants to repopulate and keep his species alive.
But that's the same reason they stayed. That's the same reason they stayed.
Because they deserve to die?
No, because it's their like this is our home. We're going down with the ship. A captain goes down.
So why
with
don't
the
they let their son die? Why is it important to keep the people going if they all deserve to die?
Because he's just born. They planned this. This was all part of the plan, according to him.
It's a stupid plan.
Okay,
we need to die. Just get a bigger spaceship. Like, it's not that crazy. Okay, sorry, that's one detail.
I disagree. You cannot like it, but that doesn't mean. The fact that it was addressed, to me, means the world. It's not like it wasn't addressed.
But it's addressed. They addressed it by saying just because.
No,
basically.
they didn't. No, yeah, I disagree. But we can keep. I disagree.
There's no good reason.
You're wrong. Go ahead.
Why is everything so sexual on Krypton?
What is sexual?
Are you kidding me? The entire design, everything is a vagina or a penis. And I want to understand why that is. I'm not exaggerating. That has to have been written about because it's so obvious.
It didn't.
The little devices literally open like this, and then the little thing comes out. And then the most egregious one is when they freeze Zod and all them, and then these fucking dick carbonite things come up over, and they float up into whatever that was. Those things look like dildos. They look exactly like dildos. There's no confusing that. It has to be intentional. Why? Why is that? Every time, there was literally something that looked. I don't want to be so graphic, but
we're too late.
Like a clitoris on top of a vagina, these little devices. It was insane. It was clearly a thing.
I mean,
strange.
Sure, if you look at it under the lens of that, sure, but anything can be phallic if you kind of make it, right?
No, yeah, anything can be phallic. A Washington Monument, that's phallic.
Yep.
But it's not curved with a head and balls at the bottom like these things were.
On a similar note, I was not expecting to see so much baby penis. If we're gonna go down this road, there was like 3 or 4 shots of it. Like, put that kid in a diaper. There was no need for that. That I was like, they don't need to do this. You see that kid's little penis for so much.
It brings up an interesting conversation that's probably kind of strange to have, but I started to think like I don't support any of this, but like, how old can a child be in a film before that you can show them naked? Like, who's deciding that?
But there was just no reason for it. Put the kid in a little diaper. That just felt excessive for the sake of.
So well, maybe it lays. There's a reason for it.
Maybe
because the whole
maybe it lays
credence.
Penises
maybe and vaginas. There's clearly a message trying to be.
And maybe
I promise you there is.
Maybe there's connected. I don't know.
Why is their technology worse than just having a screen? Like those little floating orbs that like have like wooden looking like faces come out. It's like a statue talking to you. Like, that's worse. Just have a screen. Like, I know you want to be different, but like a screen is clearer. You don't want to just see the person.
This is why you don't like the film, because they chose a different art design.
I was wondering, like, until we found out later, like, where were the prisoners when the planet exploded? That's a stupid thing. Like, we send them up to space and somehow the explosion melts their. Like, that's very convenient.
Yeah, it's very convenient.
When young Clark is saving the school bus, and then everybody's like, oh my God, and the mom has a meeting with Diane Lane and says something like, well, this isn't the first time that Clark's done something like this. It's like, oh, Clark has saved a bunch of children before, but everyone still hates him and picks on him, and he's getting bullied all the time.
Well, they're trying to
Clark,
keep it on.
You little bitch. It's like, remember last week when you saved those children from the fire, you pussy? Like, like it makes no sense.
No, but you're really, give me your frowny face. Like, you're really digging in on things that I don't think are that. What?
It just shows a lack of care for the story.
I disagree. I disagree wholeheartedly.
This consistency. I never notice these things. I am not this kind of movie watcher
You're
where
a piece
I'm
of shit. I think we know that. You're wrong. Because you mean to tell me you don't think it is plausible. You can't suspend your disbelief to feel that high school kids can pick on anyone. Do you think high school kids who pick on other kids have some sort of moral compass? You believe that in your heart of hearts?
If this kid saved your life 3 weeks ago, I think I might be a little nicer.
But clearly he didn't save their lives. The guy that picked on him in that very next scene gave him the hand up. He was okay with it. He helped him up and kind of felt bad for him. So you saw the evolution there. And then on top of that, you're filling in the gaps because the parents are doing everything they can to hide it. So he and his parents are on this little cover-up mission to make people not believe that he's this hero. That's the whole fucking point of the film. Or the beginning part of the film is to cover up the fact of who he really is because no one can handle it. So it doesn't make enough sense for you to feel like high school kids wouldn't bully some outcast? Like, it makes perfect sense. Like, I don't need to drill down that deep. I can make that level of assumption for me to be like, there's no care in this story. I disagree wholeheartedly with what you're saying.
I think it's not just one of these things. If it was just one of these things, sure. You could be like, yes, you're being very nitpicky. And so I'm not trying to list things to be like scoring points or dunking on the movie. I'm just saying, this is a list of evidence to me that there is no real care to the story because things are just happening and people are doing weird shit that isn't cohesive with the rest of it.
So what would you have happen?
In that scene, I would make it so that only that girl, maybe that little girl, so there's one person that saw him do this. So then it's more believable that they're able to keep this secret. But you have the mom who's complaining or whatever saying like, Clark has done this before, references like 4 other kids that saw this at least, references that this is not the first time this sort of thing has happened. So it's clearly like a thing in this small town in Kansas, literally named Smallville, that they know that this is a thing that happens. So it's weird to me.
But
it was just unnecessary.
People.
Maybe not weird, just unnecessary. Why do you have to add that part in? If it's just going to make it seem like this is a thing that happens sometimes as Clark saves the day.
Because I think what the film is trying to defend the film, and I'm not Zack Snyder, but to me, the reason you have that in there is to prove that he has this moral compass within him to continue to do this. that despite his parents drilling into him to say, don't do this, he says to his dad...
He should keep doing it. I'm not arguing against him doing it.
But that's why the line of dialogue is in there. It's to tell the audience that this is a pattern, that he continues to go above and beyond and help people because that's who he is. And then he says to his dad, what am I supposed to do? Let them die? I know I can save them. There's something inside me saying I need to save these people. And then there's, which I think is the most interesting part of the film, is this battle of can society handle this? And like, you have to cover who you are as a person to protect other people's feelings. Like, that's an emotion that millions and millions of people can relate to for one reason or another. Like, I thought that's an interesting theme, and I think the most interesting theme to Superman, the internal struggle of like finding out if you can be your true self into a world that does not want to accept you, and the struggle that causes is an interesting take on it.
Well, let's just jump ahead then to the biggest part of that. I have a couple other nitpicks we can come back to. Yeah. But the scene where Kevin Costner dies is one of the stupidest, most offensive scenes I've ever seen in my life. Like, I'm not even trying to be hyperbolic. Like, that was just so dumb from a story standpoint and from a filmmaking standpoint, that it's like that fucking moment, all of it is just so like over the top, and you're trying to drive this emotion. Like, I was almost laughing out loud. Like, I was yelling like, go fucking save him. Like, this makes no sense if you're Kevin Costner, number one, that your son, who's a superhero that you know can do all this stuff, we're gonna let these people, I'm gonna go risk my life to save a dog. But my son, who won't die, can't go save that dog. Like, just go have him do what Kevin Costner was gonna do. And he doesn't have to betray his powers. And he watches, and there's fucking... And the wind's blowing, the cars blow. Like, that's so corny.
I love that.
I love so bad.
I love this.
I was like, immediately, I was like, oh, so Clark Kent's a bad person. Like, he's bad at this.
No.
Like, this is...
Here's where you're wrong. You're letting the emotion that film made you feel and confusing it with bad filmmaking, when I would argue the exact opposite. The fact that this movie made you feel that way, and it made me feel the same way. Made me feel the same exact way. You'd be like, Clark, go get him. Superman, like, fix this. You can do it. And he doesn't. And the fact that I feel that emotion is what makes that scene palatable. It makes it good. I don't want to say it's like the greatest scene of all time. That's why I say the word palatable. But like, but that's the point. But even more so than that, this is all equaling something. Whether you like it or not is not the point I was trying to make at the onset of this. All these things that we're discussing that you just don't like, all equal something in the story. These things are not without cause. These things are not without purpose. You just don't like them, and that's totally fine.
Yeah, it's poorly executed.
But no, I disagree.
The structure I understand.
You just don't like it. You just don't like it, which is fine. But it would be weird if he was saving other things, saving other kids, and his dad was like, yeah, totally, man. Awesome stuff. We love you when you save stuff. And then he's like, no, this is my fight, not yours, son. That would be bad, and that would not add up. But it is clear throughout the whole film that their family loves the son so much that they will go to any lengths necessary to conceal his identity because they love him that much. They believe that if the world knows who he is, it will be far worse than them dying. That's the point of the scene.
I know. I get the point.
I don't think you do.
You keep coming back that like I'm missing the point, or that it's not consistent in that way.
It is.
I understand that story thread. Like, that's important. I agree completely.
Okay.
It's the execution of these scene-by-scene things.
So
you can't tell me that Kevin Costner's standing there in the middle of a fucking hurricane, tornado, with his hand out, and like, no, like, that's bad filmmaking because it's mad fucking corny. And you say it's emotion. It's not it has nothing to do with emotion. It's not like I'm like, no, please go save him. What are you doing? I'm not upset. I'm like, logically, this is stupid. Like, either let your kid who's invincible go save the dog.
I'll get him.
No. Get your mom to the overpass.
Or just don't go save the dog. Don't put him in a position where now you are a horrible father, you're going to put this weight on your own adopted son, who you know is already struggling with this stuff, and you're just going to go like, I got to save our dog.
So okay, Captain, I'm great at everything. What you tell me? Do you not have? How do you fix it? Do you not have Kevin Costner die? Do you have him die in a different way? Do you just not have him put the hand up? Like what? You just have him die in a different way?
Yeah, I think that's interesting.
You have him die in a different way?
Yeah, I would have had him die in a different way. I would have definitely avoided all the fucking glorification hero shots of him doing that, because it's unnecessary to me personally. And I would have done it in a way where it wasn't so needless. Like his death was needless. Like you didn't need to do that. Running into that area was unnecessary. It was just
That's
unnecessary.
the best point you've had. That's the best point you've had. Needless.
It felt really cheap to me because I'm like, what are you, some fucking idiot? Like you don't see that tornado right there? Like you're running to the car and the guy who's invincible, you're not bringing him with you even? Like just bring him with you so he could rip the metal apart and pull your leg out earlier. Like he doesn't have to fly. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It just
okay.
It bothered me.
Okay, sure. I'll agree with that very, very last part. His death is needless. You're right.
Why were the cameras so shaky all the time? That was a really weird choice.
I want to dig in because I was going to say one of the things that I did like about this film was its cinematography. I did like it, but it doesn't sound like you did. When you say shaky, what do you mean? Handheld or there were...
Yeah, but like incredibly handheld in scenes that don't require it. I'm a big fan of handheld when it's needed, but there's like calm discussion scenes where the frame is like, and it's because it's not just like documentary, like you're loosely moving a little bit within the camera. It's like schizophrenic a little bit. Like it's really jumping around, and I don't know why you would do that. It was really distracting to me.
I'd have to look at it again in the scenes that you're talking about, but I feel like certain things I did like about the movement within the fighting scenes. But you're talking about like dialogue scenes.
Yeah, I thought it was funny because in a lot of the fighting effects-heavy shots, they were really smooth because I feel like it's a lot easier to create those effects on a smooth tracking shot. Whereas just like we're having a nice intimate conversation, and it's like shaken.
I'd have to watch it again, but I was going to say another compliment of the film. Like, again, generally I thought there was some really nice shots. I thought overall. But in terms of the action, I personally, and this is I know is more of a stylistic choice. Like I'm sure some people could hate it. Maybe yourself, you hate it. But when you watch the action scenes, there was a lot of moments where these had these like digital zooms almost. Like it doesn't look incredibly natural because I just know that it's not real. But I don't fault the film for that. I like the attempt of it. Like a lot of it felt like I was catching it from like someone's cell phone type vantage point. Like I'm just, the camera's over here and then we kind of just like punch in over here and like, what's this over here? And much like our conversation about Last of the Mohicans, it made me feel very present. It gave me a voyeuristic kind of feel, which I liked.
That's so weird.
Which I liked. A lot of the action felt like I was kind of there and I'm catching bits and pieces of it and I don't really know what I'm seeing. And I think that helped because these are alien things. Like it helped sell to me the realisticness of this because it feels unnatural in a bit. I don't know if I'm making sense, but it felt like I almost was like kind of peeking around a corner and be like, oh my God, did you see that? I can't believe what's happening. And their fights are happening so fast. I'm not like seeing like, I'm just seeing like everything felt jumbled. But to me, I thought it was an interesting stylistic choice because it put me very much like I was there, not in the fight, but like around the corner kind of, in a good way. Like, I can't believe I'm seeing this. This is an unbelievable thing that I'm part of and witnessing. And I like the approach. And again, it's consistent throughout, and that's what I love the most about this film. Everything in the film, to me, seemed very consistent. Whether you loved it or hated it, didn't like the decisions that were actually made, the execution of it, to me, there seemed like a plan that they executed that plan for good or bad.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. I really hated those digital zooms. You say consistent, I say overused. I thought they did that 10 times per action sequence.
Yeah.
And to me, it didn't feel like a Zack Snyder film. It felt like it was Zack Snyder trying to do J.J. Abrams because that's what J.J. Abrams does in like the Star Trek movies. Yeah. There'll be like these punch-ins, but he only does it once or twice. I feel like and I don't mind those as much. But this, I felt like, oh, we're going to do it again? And then it got to the point where another action scene would start and I'd be like, When's the first 3 of those crash digital zoom things going to happen? And it was just all the time, and it felt very distracting. Conversely, I thought all the action, for the most part, was really good. Like, I enjoyed the actual action. I enjoyed the effects. I thought the effects were really top-notch, even 7 years later, 8 years later. I thought, like, damn, this stuff looks good.
Yeah.
Like, there was really only one part maybe that I was like, it's a little... They're straining their capabilities. But for the most part, it was really, really, really good effects and action choreography and seeing things in ways I'd never seen, you know, like in all the fights where they're slamming through buildings, and a lot of the flying where it's like really intense and really rapid movements. Like, that stuff was cool. It was cool that they were trying and succeeding on new elements of that sort of thing. But the directing of a lot of that stuff was just unnecessary to me. Those crash zooms in particular were just...
Yeah, you cannot like it. I'll never fault anyone for not liking it. I mean, that's why it's all subjective. I like that it was consistent. But are you saying it's overused, and me say that's the beauty of these conversations.
Maybe you can explain this to me. What was that ship that they found? Whose ship was that?
That I missed. I didn't understand, and I kind of just moved past it. I don't know. I don't know how that ship got there. I kind of just assumed it's been there for a long period of time.
Well, that's what they said. It's been there for like 18,000 years or something, the ice around it.
The ice surrounding the object, it's nearly 20,000 years old.
It's just there. It's like a relic that nobody had found and just happened.
So it was like a scout ship from Krypton from ages ago. But then
Sure.
Why is his Superman uniform in there?
That brings me to the biggest problem I have with the film is Russell Crowe's character after he dies.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand any of that. It's not explained at all how this technology works, or how, like, he's just a conscious in what? In a computer software? He doesn't look projected, and then at the end he's just like guiding her. He's like a god. All of a sudden he just becomes this god, and he's like, someone's over there, and then this is happening. And it's like, you're a computer that's part of the ship, but you're also part of another ship. Like, I just load you into whatever ship I want.
It's a little USB drive.
Yeah,
it's a little USB drive.
But you could just load his consciousness into anything you want. Like, I put him in my iPad if I want. Like,
well, any of those technologies that has that little port.
That felt just way too convenient, and that I couldn't overlook, because he's on that ship and he can talk to you and communicate you. So it's like, oh, he's just not dead. He's just not dead.
Yeah.
Like,
it's almost as if he shouldn't have died.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, that was the biggest. If you're going to talk about flaws of the film, that to me was the biggest. Like, if you need Russell Crowe to continue to be part of this movie, just have him be part of the movie.
But back on Krypton, they couldn't just have a hologram version of someone. It has to be this wooden fucking statue thing that sticks their head out of a mirror.
I mean, that's
like,
just
that's stupid.
It's creative
that's
choice.
Stupid. Like, yeah, in general, I hate the idea that Russell Crowe comes back and can have such an impact on the story, because he is like such an important part of it.
But in such present dialogue, such present. It's like
he's
he
aware
exists.
of everything.
That did bother me.
But that said, the technology of it doesn't irritate me as much as, why is the Superman uniform on that ship? Like that, like, maybe I missed something, but like...
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. Why? And it's just been there? It's been there for 1,800 years? Because...
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing. That whole thing is weird. And then I had the thought, why couldn't the film just start there? And I think the film would be a lot better. If the film basically just started with a team excavating some unknown area of this ice and finding this ship, and at night, one of these guys that works on the crew sneaks off into the ship, and holy shit, it's Clark Kent. And then you get the little backstory filled in that he's been searching for this for a long time, because he knew something about him being an alien based on something else. It's going to do flashbacks anyway, so you do a flashback to him discovering the ship in the basement of the barn, asking questions about who he is. So then you just know that he, and then you miss all that fucking noise, and then it's not 2 hours and 40 minutes. And I just feel like that made more sense to me. Yeah. It's like, as he's discovering, we're discovering. We don't need all the shit, the noise at the beginning. Like, the Krypton scene is so unnecessary to me. Like, it's just so unnecessary.
I don't disagree. I don't disagree with what you're saying. I'm going to play devil's advocate as to why I think it's in the film. Because you have Russell Crowe is committed to this film, and there's not a ton of action after that. So I'm willing to bet maybe the studio, someone pipes in and says, we're going to start this film with a big action set piece. Because that's why people are here. It's a Superman movie, right? Like, we want to see people fight and things blow up and guns and all this shit. So let's just put that right in the front. We'll just get, we'll like, we got a big star.
Either way, there was going to be a big action scene.
Yeah, just to start.
But I'm not suggesting we just start it there literally. I mean, the rest of the film would also have to be rewritten.
No, but agree with you. I think you could literally just start the film there. And I personally like a slow burn of not just this, like, romanticized action, blah, 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 like, I don't need that. I have patience. Like, I can get through this. I'm here for the story, and the action just is fun part of that story. Some people just want to see shit blow up.
Especially with the DC universe, which sort of, I feel like, prides itself, intentionally or not, on being a little more darker and grittier and real. And that's a big part of, I think, of why those Christopher Nolan Batman movies resonated so much with people, is there's not, like, so much crazy over-the-top wild battles and action and crazy shit, because it feels a little more like a real world.
Yeah.
And I thought that would help this movie. Start kind of slow.
Yeah, agreed.
Start with this mystery that he's trying to uncover this thing, and then it really pays off the crazy big action stuff as it goes.
Yeah.
Quick shout out to Positivity. I love that whole scene where Zod was broadcasting for the first time.
Yeah,
and it almost becomes like a creepy horror movie.
Yeah.
That weird staticky look, and the power's all going off, and everybody's looking like, that was incredibly well done. And I thought, what if the whole movie felt like this? Where it was kind of that slow burn, where it's like you start to just build, and it's this mystery, like, who's this Zod guy? And you hadn't seen him for 20 minutes earlier, eating all the scenery as, Michael Shannon, great actor, but really just fucking Pedro Pascal's Wonder Woman ended up. Just like, let me go! Like, I mean,
I really
the mystery would be so much better.
And I agree. That I really do agree. I wish they could have bottled that tone, because that felt very real and very natural and heart racing. That you felt it. And I liked the way they handled the language barrier. I thought I thought the tone was really fun and interesting. I liked the way that they handled it. I wish they kept that momentum throughout. And another positive, sort of on that note, I'm just going to jump in, because I did want to say I appreciated the color of the film, because it wasn't overly bright. It wasn't overly saturated. The reds weren't, like, his cape wasn't this blinding red. Like, if you go back to the Christopher Reeve days, like, that red is fucking red. Like, it's like bleeding from your TV or whatever. Like, I like that everything was, like, toned down a little bit color-wise. It was a little bit more of a, not such a saturated palette, I guess. Nothing too extreme.
I think that's kind of a complaint of some fans, though. Like, that's kind of a famous complaint of the DC movies up until these Wonder Woman movies, kind of, is that the Zack Snyder look is to, like, suck all the color, and sort of by result, you kind of take some of the joy out of the movie. And that, I would say that as a general complaint of the film, it is very joyless. Like, you're not really ever having a good time.
Right.
Like, and that's kind of maybe, I think, the biggest complaint maybe I've seen online is
but that's fine. Like, that's stupid. I'm sorry if that's how you feel. That's just not this movie. It's just not the movie. And to me, no bigger example of that is there was like 2 or 3 times where they just force comedy. And you're just like, I was like, ugh. Biggest case in point is when Lois Lane, after their first kiss.
They say it's all downhill after the first kiss.
It was so forced and so bludgeoned with a cute romantic one-liner that just felt like, why are we trying to do like When Harry Met Sally right now?
Ooh.
Are you okay?
Like, at the climax,
Yes!
at the end of this film, that felt terrible. Anytime this film tried to be funny, I was mad. It's like, stop it. Just let the film be what the film is. Like, this film isn't that. Let it go. It's not Marvel.
Yeah.
It's not a Marvel film, guys. Go watch a Marvel film if that's what you want.
It's still a superhero film. Like, so I'm not disagreeing with you.
So is the Joker. So is the Joker. Different stories are told differently. Like, if this was the intent of this film, then let it be that, and don't complain that it's not what you want it to be. Just accept that it's not, and you can choose to like it or not, but don't be like, well, it should have been lighthearted or more colorful or more, so I can feel better about Superman, because this is a different version. It's a different type of story.
Yeah, that's fine. I agree with that.
Thank you.
Yeah, the worst comedy line was at the very end, where the woman, the military woman, says,
I just think he's kind of hot.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Get back in the car, Private." Like, fucking, you're out of the army. Like, that's what would happen. It's like, keep your fucking thoughts to yourself about who's attractive in front of your commanding officer.
Yeah,
It's stupid.
Should have no comedy in that film.
But that brings me, you brought up Lois.
Amy Adams.
That might have been the weakest part of the film to me, was their relationship. Like, you talk about, in the last Mohicans episode, romantic development. Like, my God, there was nothing here. I did not feel that they had any chemistry. I thought that all of a sudden, you know, like, she visits him once in the cemetery, or you know, they meet in the cemetery, and all of a sudden she's willing to throw away her big scoop, and he refers to her as a friend to his mom. She's a friend. It's like, oh, after that one conversation, you guys are close friends. And then all of a sudden they're just kind of like in love, because we know that Clark and Lois are in love. Like, it was really taken a lot for granted, and there was just no connection, and all of that. I mean, almost everything with Lois was really unbelievable. That, like, she gets on the spaceship, the military lets her get on the spaceship, like, and then at the end she's on the fighter jets or the helicopters or whatever the fuck they're doing at the end. I'm just like, this woman would be nowhere. Like, she's not allowed to be at these places. Like, no, I'm gonna go. Yeah. And they just go, oh.
Yeah, she wants to go. That was also a very egregious part of the, like, there was a few instances her and Russell Crowe have where it's just like, well, this needs to happen. So, it's happening.
I thought it would have been better if Zod wasn't so cartoonishly evil and more relatable.
Agreed.
Because I don't think his drive, his mission, is not an unreasonable one. He's going about it in not a great way. He's going to wipe out the population of Earth, but it's in service of a whole other population.
Yep.
Like, he's trying to save his people, and if you did it more like kind of a Killmonger thing from Black Panther, where it's like Killmonger is dark and does some evil shit, but you kind of understand where he's coming from, I thought that would have been a better choice here. It would have been a more interesting choice, rather than making Zod just, like I said, just dialed up to 1,000, just evil and mad.
I will find him!
Michael Shannon is a very talented actor.
Phenomenal.
Really, really talented, and I like him. I don't love him in this film, probably for that reason. Because the way he acts, he should be a much bigger, menacing presence. If he's going to be this militant warrior, like, he's got to look like Bane, rather than I know that man is not a strong, you know, he doesn't project himself as a strong beefcake type dude. So then if that's the actor you want to play it, then dial that back and rely on his acting. You know, like, rely on his strengths, play to his strengths of not this big, beefy military, I'm going to kill you, I've trained my whole life to be a warrior type thing. Make him intelligent and make him deep and the connection so rich and not this cartoonish, like, that felt mismatched. You know, you didn't play to that actor's strength for his performance.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I wrote the Jesus stuff. Jesus. That was a lot.
What?
Like, I know the whole movie's
the
kind
Jesus
of
stuff.
Oh, Keith.
The Jesus?
You missed the sexual stuff and you missed the Jesus stuff.
I missed a
There
bunch.
was so much religious allegory. I mean, this movie was literally, I read after the fact, marketed to, like, churches and Christian groups and stuff.
Oh, wow.
Trying to really, like, it is a story of Jesus, like, sacrificing to save humankind. The imagery of, like, when he goes to the church to talk to that pastor or whatever for a minute, and behind him in the stained glass is Jesus in a red robe, and just right over his shoulder.
Yeah.
And then the worst one of all is, like, when he pushes himself off of that spaceship.
Oh, that was
he's
weird.
leaving his father, and he just, like, floats like this for a minute. Like,
I just thought that was a weird. I didn't make a Jesus connection to it, but I thought
no,
that
it's
was
all
weird.
Jesus. It's all very intentional Jesus stuff.
Yeah.
And much has been made of that, so we're not breaking any new ground here. But, like, it's just so heavy-handed. And even though I think it's personally unnecessary, if you do decide to do that as a filmmaker, just don't be as heavy-handed. It's a different subject, but it's similar in the way of Kevin Costner. Like, we just don't need that. Like, you're just smashing it in our face. Like, well, we get it.
You're just mashing it now.
No, I didn't get it. Like, I mean, yeah, I just thought that was poor acting. I don't know. Like, it was like, that's weird and stupid. Like, he would dismount that way.
Yeah, especially because like Lois is, like, crashing.
Yeah,
to
like,
death
it's a time
behind
of, like,
him.
need, and he just
like, takes a minute,
Yeah.
So a little too much Jesus stuff. Action and effects, good. And the general notion, which I know it's also much has been made of, but just quickly, the level of destruction that they cause is a little absurd in both the Smallville fight and the Metropolis fight, where it's like, okay, so Smallville is decimated. It just seems unnecessary. Like there's like I can respect the thought that we need to show that there's consequences to this, and I would think that's what filmmakers would say. Like this is very realistic, like in all these movies, because I feel that way about Marvel sometimes. Is there's almost not enough, and that they always like try to include in a news at the bottom of the scroll, like somehow only 18 people were hurt, no deaths, and no one ever dies in these things. And this movie's like, fuck that. Even though it doesn't address that, clearly hundreds of thousands of people die, like in these battles. Like that it just starts to get a little much, where it's like, okay, Smallville's gone and Metropolis is basically gone. Like those things are completely destroyed.
Yeah, I didn't love the end fight. I'm gonna be honest. I'll be honest. There's another thing that I didn't love between Zod and him, and I didn't like that he just kind of snapped his neck at the end to like resolve it. It just, that felt one of the more unplanned and unthought out things. It felt like in the beginning and the end of the movie, they were just like, we're gonna do action stuff. So let's just do action stuff. We'll go through buildings and we're gonna cause destruction and blah, blah, blah. And like, but the story's the thing, like in between that, like we're gonna put some real care and thought into try and like, and then we'll do this action stuff for people who just wanna see crazy stunts and CGI and shit like that. It felt a little, I don't know, a little out of place. Because if he could just like snap his neck the whole, like that was the, I don't know, he just didn't get a chance to like, there wasn't anything special. There wasn't like, oh, we gotta do this. It's like, nah, I'll just rip his heart out.
No, I think that it was really intentional, because having Superman kill someone is such a big deal. Like that doesn't happen. That was a huge point of contention, is like, Superman's not a killer. He shouldn't, like goes against character. So I think that's why that was intentionally meant to be such a mic drop moment. Is not, this isn't your dad's Superman, this isn't your grandma's Superman. He's killing Zod.
Yeah.
And so that
I'm okay
was
with him killing him. The fact that he killed him is fine. That moment didn't build in anticipation. If that's the thing I've been invested in this whole time, is this battle between these two guys. We're gonna have just this long, drawn-out fight where they go through buildings and go through things, and they're taking punches and going through walls, whatever. But I can just kill you by snapping you. Like your neck is still that weak that you know what I'm saying. Like it just didn't. But I don't mind him killing him. But it's just why don't you just do that the first time you guys met? Like I don't know. It just.
Yeah, well, he wasn't mad enough yet, or he wasn't focused enough. I thought, like, I should say too, like, I think the fight scenes for the most part, despite being complete CGI stimulation overload, which I don't typically love, I thought they were cool looking. Like I enjoyed them from like a holy shit, this is wild standpoint. But if you show that, and again, like realistically, sure, there probably would be that level of destruction. But when you show that much in a movie like this, it almost became comical, where it's like, Jesus, they're going to take out more buildings. Like if your film is making a viewer stop thinking about what's happening and the emotion of it, and is instead thinking like, you're taking out, what is this, the 30th skyscraper that's coming down because they had to fly that way? Like, Superman, lure him away a little ways. It shouldn't, like, that should be one of his thought processes. That's a failure in that regard, because the whole time I started laughing. Like, man, they're gonna have a lot of cleanup here. How many people are dying? How many people are dying? Like, it has to be so many.
Yeah. I won't argue with that.
As a small addition to that rubble stuff, I thought it was really weird and unnecessary. Like, I know you have to have Lawrence Fishburne in the movie more, I guess, but that whole little side subplot of him and the other two employees getting running for their lives, which is obviously super unrealistic, that it seems like everyone around them is gone and they're the only ones that survived.
Are they gone?
I think so.
But the scene, I literally cackled out loud, and that never, like, it really doesn't happen. I can't reiterate enough. Like, I don't watch movies to kind of hate on them in the moment. I really like to get lost in movies.
The show would argue.
I don't think like that, but this movie just all stood out to me. But the scene where the woman, I think she's an intern, gets buried in the rubble, and they're like trying to pry her up, and they're gonna like sacrifice their lives for her. That's all good. But like again, the heavy-handedness of like cut, reverse shot, reverse shot of like them like making like him looking at her,
accepting their
and
death,
her crying and accepting death and that. And I was like, I literally laughed out loud, and I said, is this the first time we've seen this woman? Like, is this moment supposed to mean anything to me? Like, it's acting like this is Lois Lane buried down
she's
there.
in the film. She's in the film. She's in a couple scenes.
But it's like, we don't know anything about their, like,
Yeah.
I know, like, you should just naturally feel like, yeah, save her, this is really sad. But, like, if you're gonna be that heavy-handed, that has to be Diane Lane or Amy Adams down in that rubble, because it's so, like, this is a moment.
Yeah.
It's like, no,
Or
I have
don't
no
spend that
idea
much-
who this woman is.
Yeah, or don't spend that much time on it. Just give a quick look and like, oh no, and like move on. You're right. You're 100% right. You're 100% right.
It's hilarious. It's hilarious.
I mean, I don't know if it's hilarious, but
It was easily the funniest part of the movie, much more so than the intentional comedy.
that part's true because none of that movie should be funny. There's zero comedy.
And then my last thing, and I'm sorry for those of you who love this film who turned this off half an hour ago, so you don't care. But
You're not even here.
The last thing I thought, and I'm not just saying this to try to sound smart because I don't think it requires that much intelligence. But after the Smallville fight, the first big fight, and his henchmen come and pick up. They pick up Zod, because Zod's like having trouble breathing outside, or whenever that scene is, when Zod's having trouble breathing for the first time, and they come and knock Superman back and pick him up on a ship and fly away. I said, why doesn't Superman just fly through that ship? Like, why don't you just fly through that ship to destroy it? Like, it makes all the sense in the world. Problem solved. They fall back down.
Yeah.
And then he does that at the end, and that's how he destroys the main ship, is by Randy Quaid Independence Day and going up the middle.
Hello, boys! I'm back!
And it's like, oh, so you could have done that this whole time.
Yeah.
Why isn't that your solution to all problems?
Yeah, that's the tough part with Superman. That is the hardest part with Superman. If you have a character that can do anything at any time, it's then,
Why didn't he do that when he went to the big one in space?
Yeah, why don't you just
Like,
do?
you're out there, fly through it real quick and destroy it.
Yeah, why just destroy everything? Like, just you can solve any problem at any point in time. If it, like that's the problem with Superman. That's why it's really hard to tell Superman stories. In my opinion, I think he's the worst superhero for that reason. Because
That's probably why I think they kind of like killed him off in Batman v Superman.
Yeah.
So they could, do some movie without him, because
Yeah,
it doesn't make
because
he
he
solves
just-
all. It's like
he solves
Captain
all-
Marvel.
Yeah,
It's
same
Captain
thing.
Marvel. It's the
Yeah,
Captain
it's the
Marvel problem.
Yeah, it's the same thing. You
Oh,
can't,
she had to go on to another planet for a couple
you
movies.
just got to write them
so we
out of
could
the
have
story.
some
Like,
scenes.
she's on vacation for 2 weeks. So yeah, and that's why Captain Marvel's not a good film. It's just
No.
when your superhero has no flaws and no weaknesses, and then at any point you can just be like, why don't they just fix it?
Yeah.
So there's no drama. So it's really hard. It's really.
It's a good thing Captain Marvel got there just in time for the end of Endgame to
it's just
save everyone.
But I thought she was gone. Don't get me started
She
on
shows up
Endgame.
at the beginning to save him, and then shows up at the end
then just
to
to
save
save
them.
them. Yeah,
Movie's
like-
over.
Yeah,
Maybe
that's
just stick around. See, Marvel does it too, guys. Don't take it personally.
Yeah.